All right, and with that, I'd like to turn this over to our auditors, Lisa Bush and Janelle. And Tupper.
Are you gonna do minutes?
Oh, gosh, you're right. Thank you. We need to, everybody's had a chance, hopefully, to look over the February minutes. Does anybody have any corrections? No. Can I have a motion to, yeah, so Bill motioned and I need a second. And Mandy seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you, Jeannie. Okay, now I'll turn it over to Lisa and Janelle. Lee, oh God. You know, maybe it's me and not my internet. I don't know.
Good evening, everyone. Janelle and I are from Bowers and Company. I'm the audit partner and Janelle's the audit manager. And I'm going to have Janelle go through the financial statements this evening. And if you have any questions, let us know and we'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, I am going to share my screen now so that we're all looking at the same pages on the financial report. Can you see a PDF with Kate,
yes.
Vincent? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So we like to keep these pretty brief, just basically go through the report quickly, address the high points. If anyone does have any questions related to the content of the report or any of the attached letters, let me know and we can dig into it further. But again, based on the presentation, etc., we just like to keep things top level. So, okay. First page we're going to go over is the independent auditor's report. Basically, right here underneath opinion, we go briefly into it that we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the LDC, which include the statement of financial position, statement of activities, functional expenses, and cash flow, and as well the related notes of the financial statements as of December 31st, 2022 or 2023. Next paragraph here, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the LDC as of December 31st, 2023. So that's the best audit opinion you can get. You know, we didn't have any significant issues. It's clean. They're fairly stated. Next paragraph here basically says that we conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the US, including government auditing standards. Why government auditing standards? Well, basically you do a lot of business, a lot of grants, a lot of contracts with municipal entities, ergo government auditing standards. Okay. Next page. This page goes into the responsibilities of both parties. So basically it says management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the US. You are also in charge of designing, implementing, and maintaining the internal control environment. It does go further into this, but again, if you want to read through the entire report, you're welcome to, but that's the main point we like to address. Our responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue our report that includes an opinion. This goes through different aspects of the responsibilities of both parties, but those are the high points for each. Okay. Now we're going to dive into the financial statements. Generally, we do comparative financial statements. However, obviously, this is the first year, not only that you've incurred an audit, but that you've really been in operation. So this is brand new for everyone. So single year reporting in the current year. Your cash balance is $123,000. Basically, this is the unspent balance of the contract revenue with the village and the town. The $5,600 is just a down payment on the 2024 grant writing services. You have a contract, basically you had to make a down payment on that contract and it was done in the current year. Your fund balance is everything that's remaining after, assets less liabilities, which were 0 at year end. So essentially your results of operations were $129,000. This is the statement of activities. It goes through comparative information that you would normally see in the profit and loss or other comparable statement. Contract revenue with the village and the town was $186,000. You had a little bit of interest income on your bank accounts for the year. You did have expenses of $57,000. Most of them were for program expenses, basically grant writing services. And then we have a management in general column that we'll go through on the next page. Prior year balance was 0, again, first year of operations, and then your results of operation revenue less expenditures were $129,000. Okay. This is a statement of functional expenses. In the current year, you did have $45,000 that were listed as project expenditures. Again, this is expenses related to grant writing and similar services for the year. The rest of it is management in general categories. Basically was saying this is the program services are the expenses incurred to further your nonprofit purpose, whereas the management and general expenses are more towards operating the organization. This includes attorneys' fees, accountants' fees for setup, consultations, etc. Just again, basically where we'd expected to see it given the status of the organization in the first year. This is a cash flow, very brief. Your profit from the organization was $129,000. We take away the prepaid expense of $5,600 and we get the cash balance at year end. Okay. So nature of activities, basically you guys were established for operations in 2022 and your purpose is to serve the Cape Vincent community in attracting investment, fostering compatible growth, etc. Basically, this is your purpose. We do draw attention to the note where it says that you work in conjunction with the town of Cape Vincent and the village of Cape Vincent and rely primarily on contract revenues related to the operations. While you guys have applied for grants, you have yet to receive it. So your most significant form of income right now is the contract with those entities. And again, in the future, obviously, this will dwindle down where it's more towards grant revenue, but in the current period, it's focusing on this. Okay, basis for presentation. Net assets without donor restrictions. What does this mean? If a nonprofit organization receives donations that are restricted by the donor, so let's say I provide the organizations with $1,000, but tell you you can only spend it on supply purchases for disbursement, that would be a restriction. So at the end of the day, basically you guys just had the contract revenue. There was no restriction on that other than essentially that you perform these services for those municipalities. So at the end of the day, any net assets results from operations are not considered donor restricted. Okay. Skipped a little bit too much. Okay. So just to draw attention to this line here, the organization does not currently maintain a formal capitalization policy. Your policies do include depreciation, but they don't currently include a capitalization threshold. We'll briefly just go through this within the management letter later in the audit presentation. But essentially, you guys didn't have any capital purchases for the year anyway. Most of them were associated with professional services. Okay. The organization is exempt from income tax provisions under Section 501c3 and has been classified by the IRS as a private foundation under 509a. It's just different classifications related to different nonprofits. Underneath functional expenses. So in the current year, basically, the costs have been allocated on a direct identification. There's no mixed costs. You had grant writing and then you had management in general. In future periods, this will probably become more complex, and if you want to get into descriptions, potential allocation methods, we can in the future, but currently based on the operations, we're management and I were able to come up with these designations based on the type of expenses being paid. Okay. As I said before, the majority of the revenues coming to the organization were related to the IMA agreement with the town and the village. Basically, 99% of the revenue supplied in 2023 were related to this contract. Concentration of credit risk. As of December 31st, the organization's bank balances were fully covered by FDIC insurance. This covers deposits up to $250,000 per depositing entity, i.e. bank. As the organization grows, you might want to consider basically diversifying deposits or seeing if you can come up with a collateralization agreement with the banks, but that's for future periods. As far as liquidity goes, as I previously discussed, you have $123,000 in cash. You don't have any reported liabilities for the year, so 123 is the amount that can be applied to future services conducted by the organization. Okay. So that's it for the audit report and notes. This is our independent auditors report on internal controls. Basically, since you guys are subject to government auditing standards, this has to be included. If you'll notice here, basically in planning and performing the audit, we had to consider the internal control environment in order to design our audit procedures. And we had to look for deficiencies in internal control. At the end of the day, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Basically, while there are some suggestions that we have, there are no significant items that we would be required to report. The second page of this is related to report on compliance and other matters. Basically, again, we just had to consider compliance aspects for this audit, and we did not note any material non-compliance issues. Okay. So this one is a report on compliance with section 2925. Basically, this is just a report saying that we did not notice any issues in which the organization was non-compliant with the investment policy for the PAL reporting. So basically, entities required to file the Paris report. I know that you guys did not have any investments for the year, but they still want to see this report and it should be posted. So.
This report has to be posted on our website as well as Paris.
It should be. The audit report should probably be posted too.
Both.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the rest of the stuff.
Okay. Briefly, during the notes, I basically addressed the management letter. What this is just a list of items that we noted during our audit that we are bringing to your attention for improvement in the future, just basically a list of suggestions. The biggest item that I did notice was basically when we were again going through the formal accounting policies, there was not really a formal capitalization policy that lists periods where, oh, well, these are going to be assets, let's say, for instance, over $5,000 in purchase price that will be utilized for a year or 5 years, etc. Basically, you guys did have an item which addressed depreciation, the useful lives of assets, but again, not anything regarding the initial capitalization of them. So it's just, again, you guys are initial year, you haven't really had any purchases which would have been identifiable under this anyway. I say 5,000 just because it does address the capitalization threshold of a lot of federal grants. So that's normally the dollar amount I suggest when requested of, what should a threshold be? Other
So-
organizations have lower, but
In that case, if we buy a computer next year, that's $1,000. That's gonna be an office supply versus capitalized.
if you had a $5,000 capitalization threshold, yes.
Okay.
The other item, we had briefly talked about this before when I met with Mary and Carol. We just basically recommend that someone else is looking at any adjusting journal entries which get posted into the financial accounting system. It's just an assurance measure where, okay, well, you get notified of deposits, you get notified of disbursements, whereas the adjusting journal entries didn't really come to any formal notification. Mind you, most of your transactions were cash-based anyway, but this is just something to have in place for moving forward. Also, again, not really applicable for the current period, but a few other policies that you may want to consider. Basically is an allowance account. I noticed that you guys did have a fee, you have a template for loan issuances, etc. Once you do get into a position where you're offering to issue loans, there should be a credit loss recognition policy, basically saying, okay, well, what's our risk with these loans? What are the chances that they will not be recovered? There is a new CECL standard, which is current expected credit loss. And basically all it does is set up an allowance, which it was previously called allowance for doubtful accounts. Now it's allowance for credit losses. But again, it's just something for the future. Also, if any of the grants you have applied for are federal grants, there's requirements under uniform guidance where your internal control processes should be documented, written down. So that's just another item to look out for moving forward when you're developing these policies and procedures. Okay. And this is our final letter. Basically, this is our board communication letter, one of the requirements that we have for when issuing the audit. Basically, again, management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. This is your first year of operation, ergo you didn't have any change in policies simply because this is the first year in which you have them. Accounting estimates are an integral part of financial statements. Basically, they're based off of management's experience, current GAAP requirements, and other items. The only significant estimate that you guys currently have is the allocation for functional expenses. Again, we used a direct allocation method in the current period, but as more complex transactions go through, it might require some sort of other allocation method. During our audit, we encounter no significant difficulties in dealing with management. Mary, Carol, you're both great. Anything I asked was answered. Great questions. Obviously, it's great working with members of management, the board, who are so involved with everything. So I really do appreciate your cooperation throughout the process. Normally audits aren't fun, so again, we do appreciate it. Okay, disagreements with management. Again, we didn't have any questions that were basically counteracted. There were no significant disagreements that occurred. Management's consultations with independent accountants. If management or the board did have a disagreement in applying an accounting standard or other direction related to the reporting of the financial statements or auditing matters, you obviously could go and see another accountant to get a second opinion. To our knowledge, there was no such consultations with other accountants. And that was basically it. At the end of this, we only had one adjusting journal entry, and basically it was just to record that prepaid balance and reduce grant writing services for the future period that will be recognized as an expense in 2024. So that's it for our walkthrough of the reports and letters. I know there's a lot of information in there. Did anyone have any questions?
Awesome.
No,
Good job, guys.
yes, no, it looks like we don't have any. Just for the board, there is a file on our Google Drive now that says audit, and this entire document's in there. If anybody wants to go and look at anything, it's all in there.
And I've made that adjusting entry in our books for last year and it's pulling out this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
It looks like we don't have any questions, so thank you both very much for coming in and going through this and for having a good audit.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Janelle, you really
pleasure.
made it easy too. You were very
Oh.
organized with the questions and
Yeah,
helpful.
really, yes, it was easy. You
Because
made
my
it
eyes
easy.
were crossed when I got the first list.
Yeah.
So it was nice. You made it easy.
it does get better. Obviously, this was your first year of operation, so now that you kind of know how it goes, everything should be better for the future period.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for joining. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Good. All right, Scott, over to you.
I give everybody a copy of my report. Wait, not going on. Survey is done. I think some of you commented. I'm gonna have to create a whole new one because you guys did respond.
Hey, Scott, I can't hear you at all.
So the survey is done. I'll have to create a whole new one, which will allow me to make changes because people have already responded, so you can't edit the existing survey. But it won't allow me, and maybe you can help me, it won't allow me to add other and let people write in an answer. So I don't know if it won't do that because we haven't bought a subscription yet. We're still using the free trial. I don't know if that's a feature.
Yes.
So we gotta pay for the whole year to do that.
So I left that with you guys to figure out what you wanted to pay, because we didn't pay for anything and it was expensive and you can't buy it for a month and they
They
don't
no longer let
rate
you
and
pay
all that
monthly
stuff.
Subscription, you gotta pay the whole year. Yeah.
That's the yearly cost. I think, remember, I sent it out to us all in an email, let me see. I think it's sitting right in my inbox here.
I wanna say the cheapest one was like $460 or something. I think, $25.
And we can't get a discount as a nonprofit through anything.
I don't
I
know.
thought she said there was a nonprofit. So the cheapest one is $25 a month for the free users. Got paid in advance, so $25 times 12.
Well, yeah,
Like that,
I think we can use Google Forms
but how do you collect the information?
or send the link out.
Jeannie, you have Teams?
Yes.
Have you used Teams forms? Cause I've,
For surveys,
yeah,
a little
I-
bit.
I've used Teams forms. I don't think it's as flexible as SurveyMonkey. You can use Teams forms if you have a Microsoft, unfortunately, mine is the Hershey one, so I don't have it as a,
I've never used Google Forms, so I don't know how to collect the information.
One of my staff just gave us a tutorial on Google Forms to do surveys at work. I can see if we want to try that, we'd have to, I don't know if we can do, we should still be able to do a QR code and send that out. We could play with that if we wanted, if we didn't want to spend money.
I mean, it seems to me that that might be a good possibility. Because I know, and this is gonna come up later in the agenda, but Dan, I know the last meeting, we passed a motion that we would kind of follow this same process for the sewer survey, but now the sewer survey has gone out. So we really would have a once and done use at this point, which seems like a lot of money to use at one time.
The issue is this, then we want these survey results to help shape and form the strategic plan, which we shifted from April to May. And if we keep changing how we want to do the survey,
Yeah.
aren't we killing ourselves?
Well, the other thing is, and I had sent a note about this with the referendum for Club Street and all of that communication going out.
Right?
Do we wait to send this out until after the 13th? Just because there's so much, I mean, especially if somebody's with the sewer, right? They're getting the sewer, they're gonna get the Club Street stuff. And if they get us in the middle, are we just gonna get ignored?
If we do that, then we have to decide as a board that we don't want that survey results to inform the initial strategic plan,
No,
or we shift the strategic plan farther to the right. And we've already kind of done that from April to May.
I know.
Let me ask this, the survey, isn't it pretty much the same survey that was done prior?
No, we changed quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, and we can't get we can't get the raw data from New York State. You tried and they're just blowing us
That's where I
off.
was going.
I mean, we just have I know, it's unbelievable. I mean, we have the finished data, but things like word clouds are not helpful if you don't see the raw data, you know, it just doesn't help.
I mean, I'm not opposed, seriously, I'm not opposed to going either way. I mean, if you get the survey, and you want to go ahead and separate them, then basically you have to go ahead and shift when we want our strategic plan. However, I personally think we have more than enough to put an initial strategic plan right now between existing projects, things that we've talked about in here, all the different things we've done, the other surveys. It just has to be probably an 80%. We're gonna shift it, we're gonna change it. So then when we put out our survey, whether it be Google Forms, whether it be whatever, then that will help adjust for the next version of the strategic plan. But right now, we've linked it to inform the strategic plan that Scott.
Yeah, no, I hear you. This,
Yeah, that's where my
I
mind was
agree,
going
yeah.
as well, Bill. I think
There is enough.
we're trying to tie this off to just this one survey, and I don't know that it's the right approach.
well, do we say, because these are all good points. Do we say, you know, Scott goes forward with the LWRP and what we know from the New York Forward and we say, you know, it's a draft. And then after the 13th of April, we send it out again, and then it's, you know, it's not like Scott's not working on it. I mean, Scott, you gotta weigh in here. I mean, it just
It's up to
seems,
you what you want for next product. I mean, I can get you the draft. I think we talked about having the draft made in May now and the final in June. I mean, I'm already working on it. I've already got the outline. I can finish what I'm doing and just not, I mean, we've got the New York Forward results, which gives everybody an idea. We've got we have feedback from a number of public meetings.
so would it be, so helping me with sort of your milestone plan? So you could, at the beginning of May, have a first draft, right? And,
Yeah, that
and
was
if we sent the survey out after the 13th of April, you'd have, you know, because let's face it, if you send it out in mid-April, you're gonna give people 2 weeks, you're only gonna get stuff back in 2 weeks. Then you would have May to massage anything coming in for a final in June. Am I thinking about that right?
I don't know that we need the survey. I think that's what people are saying.
Not for the first iteration.
I think we,
That's really the thing.
Well, I don't think we need it per se to inform the plan, but what we do need is going back to what we've said in the past, which is the town doesn't feel like we tell them anything, you know,
Mhm.
so. Putting it out there, regardless of how many people put it back, the opportunity cost becomes.
Right, this was gonna be a way for us to get out in front of people. That's a good
And we
point.
can continue to use it throughout the year. We have to buy it 1 year at a time. It gives us a bunch of opportunities to throw out other things. Again, whether people fill them out or not, we can't make them do it, but we've given them the opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is worth something in and of itself.
I still think from a timing perspective, I'm with Bill, we can do a initial draft of our strategic plan with everything we have. I, again, will emphasize, and maybe it's self-fulfilling philosophy, but I'd wait till end of May after Memorial Day when all the seasonal residents come back into Cape. It'd be really interesting to get their opinion. And then we're not worried about postcards and all these craziness. We can, it just may be more effective. We might get a bigger sample, because if our sample is small, it's not going to have relevance. So our best bet is, you know, the residents, there's more population after Memorial Day. The
I
sun.
agree. If we're gonna push the survey a couple weeks to a month, we might as well push it to when we have everybody here.
Agreed.
And then we would save the money on the postage and sending it to everybody theoretically, yeah. We could just post it around the town instead of mailing it, if that's what we decide.
Right.
Okay. All right, so it feels like we've got a motion on the floor to postpone the survey. So do I have a motion? Bill's motioning, second.
Let's second it.
Pam's seconding it, all in favor? Anyone opposed?
I mean, I still think I think we're missing an opportunity to get out in front of people before and inform. I mean, if everybody in the survey came back and said, this is the worst idea ever, and it was in our strategic plan, it would at least allow us to say, whoops. We'll
The
take it out.
survey's
before
not
we go
asking,
final.
the survey's not asking about anything that's gonna be specific in our plan.
No.
Because we're not putting any projects out
So-
there.
So
But
do
it
we,
goes back to
do
the
we-
basis of it, though.
I'm wondering, does this, because I have reservations as well as you, Dave. What if, because part of it was that idea of us getting out, what if we call the strategic plan draft according to what we've all just described? And then we have a public meeting a couple of public meetings in June, and we have the survey available, right? So because, not everybody talks, you get some people that talk all the time and everybody else, but you hand them out and say, fill them out here. And just present it to the community. So that gives us a chance to get out in front of people and say, this is where we are right now, but we'd like your input on these paper surveys, right? That somebody's got to go and type in and collate. Would that work? I'm trying to think of, because we did have that secondary thing about getting us out in front of the community with the survey, and that's a good, he's got a good point.
I think seeing the outline of the strategic plan might help drive how quickly we want to get it out there too, if we see real big holes in that. But I think we should jump on a strategic plan.
Yeah, so just to make sure we're not conflating two different things, because we linked the survey with the strategic plan. And to me, they're not as linked as I'm getting the sense of. So to me, the strategic plan, when we did it, we needed something to kind of put the pile of stuff together to provide us direction, focus, and prioritize, et cetera, et cetera. We have enough existing projects and ideas for grants that we're looking at applying for in the summer, because there's only so much capacity. So if there's like 13 grants out there, Scott may have the capacity to apply for 4. So, some of it is just going to be an appetite suppressant, but we need the strategic plan to kind of prioritize. I think we have enough with existing work and future break. If the survey informs it, that's great. We can kind of separate those. Now, the second part of it was kind of advertising ourselves. So part of it could be the survey, part of it could be the plan, it could be the interim plan. This is based on all the things that we've heard from you, the people, different surveys. This is kind of what we're thinking. Oh, by the way, you might see a survey here coming in May, June. That's an opportunity to go ahead and tell us what we're, poo-poo, or we're on the right track, or give us some other ideas. There's other opportunities with the letter that we're going to do in support for the referendum that is going to have the CBLDC on there. Maybe we're going to do those letters to the editor. So we have other things we're going to kind of introduce ourselves. It's not just the survey. But I'm just trying to kind of de-link the two, because I'm not convinced we need the survey to inform the first one. We do need the survey to go ahead and either confirm or deny what we have in it, or tell us we're full of poo-poo, or give us some new ideas, as well as it has a secondary purpose of advertising the CBLDC, because I think time is our enemy right now. Just my thought. So,
Okay, so, we have a motion on the table. Carol, I don't know that I heard which way you're landed on this.
I was a yes.
You were a yes. Okay, so Jeannie, just for you, everybody in the room was a yes except for Dave and me. Jim, I don't think we heard from you.
I said yes.
Okay, all right, so the motion is carried with 2 folks that didn't agree, but that's fine. Because that happens.
It doesn't mean that the survey is not. going to be
Right, yeah,
done.
and it's not, no, I'm just saying, I just wanted, because sometimes it's hard for her to hear.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure she knew what occurred.
Do we need a motion, or is it not necessary to build a version 1 strategic plan with a target date of May, if Scott, that you're in agreement with that?
No, I
And
think we already had that motion at a previous
Yeah,
meeting.
we already moved it to draft May
Okay.
final already.
Okay, and then, but the caveat, the second step is then we would validate the strategic plan with our survey results, which we're targeting for June. Is that what I'm hearing from the board?
I don't know if that second part is what you heard from the board. I think at this point, the survey is just on hold and the,
On hold.
yeah, the discussion was that there, the board may feel comfortable at this point, other than two of us, that there'll be enough from other things that we won't.
Okay, okay, okay.
Well, so we will need the survey. We just don't need the survey now to inform this version of strategic plan.
Okay,
So, if we're talking about the timing survey, we still want to do the survey.
All right, so the survey is on hold.
Right, we still want to do survey. There's talk about how do we want to do it?
And timing.
Yeah, the survey monkey.
Summer when
Right,
everybody
the
is
timing,
here.
right, exactly. So, because there's concern about it getting lost in the sauce. There's concern about the residents coming back. That could be mid to end of May, could be June, whatever. But we still want it to have to be done. We just don't want to delay the strategic plan while we're searching for the right time to do the survey. That's why.
okay.
Okay, so Mandy, can you, since it's just on hold and not, keep sets, look at Google, you know what the survey has.
Yeah, can you have it on a Word doc? Yeah, can you send that?
Okay, super.
And see what we-
Yeah, so that's good. So that's what we'll do.
If you delay it, the other thing you may want to do, or you could do, is if when you hire an assistant, have somebody in the office, they can have it on an iPad or computer, and residents can just stop in and fill out the survey.
Yep.
Somebody can set up there during French Festival and have it out on the street, and
Mm-hmm.
people just fill it out while they're right there.
If we have a meeting, we can just get a couple iPads or QR codes and people, and help people scan their phone rather than
And
Yep, use Vuco.
Yep,
every.
Yep.
But we can hand jam some, but.
Yeah.
I've hand jammed surveys and.
it's no fun. Yep, no fun. You and I are on the same page.
Update on Northern New York Community
Yep.
Foundation. I talked to Max, the director, yesterday. He called, we had some questions on the application. The committee was meeting this week. He didn't give me which day. He said it was this week. To make recommendations to the full board on the 26th. So the full board will vote on the 26th. He made it sound positive. He said I'd hear by the end of the day on the 26th what the board decided. But so we'll know next week on their application. And I don't know, I'll start with Mary. Do you have any questions on my report?
I do. No, my only
Um,
question,
Can I get clarity? Was it May 26th, Scott?
no, March,
26th. Next-
March,
Next,
Oh, okay.
March 26th. So we should know on that this month.
Okay, and that's the Northern New York community, right?
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay.
For French Festival.
Okay, gotcha.
Great, thank you. So on the LWRP, the only thing that was outstanding on that was the Army Corps of Engineers. Has that been flattened?
Just got an email yesterday, maybe.
For which part from the LWR?
Where, right, when they went through their 60-day review, that's why it wasn't just done, and there was something from Army Corps of
Irene
Engineers.
still has an email. She said as soon as she got the response from them, she was going to email the town and the village
Okay.
regarding that response. DC.
Oh, I thought Scott had said Army Corps.
Oh, something new.
Yeah, Army Corps sent out a letter that they were gonna respond to DEC. That's. the letter
Oh,
from
okay.
the Army Corps. So we just got feedback Tuesday.
Was that regarding LWRP or cluster?
Regarding the draft LWRP
Okay.
that pertains to cluster. Yeah, it could be a bill that they're gonna put in. Depending on the construction method, there could be significant fill into the river.
That's cluster.
Yeah, but those comments have to be, DEC noted those comments on the draft LWRP 60-day comment.
So we
Okay.
do not, so that is not
Yep.
closed
That's-
then.
No,
No.
Okay, that was my question, was it closed?
No.
Okay. That was the only question I had. All right, anything else for Scott? Nope. All right, we're gonna be talking about Club Street later. Carol,
Bills to be paid. We have, WCP Consultants, 281250. Rent, $150. TI Printing Company, $9.30 for administrative assistant ad. TechSoup, it came out of the checking account today, $75. That's for QuickBooks, which will eliminate the $64.80 a month we're paying for QuickBooks, and that'll be for a year.
That-
So,
that was
once we
huge
got
savings.
TechSoup and we got 501c3, and then they had to do all this approval stuff, which I've been working on for like ever. No, it's only 4 weeks, but it seems like forever, because it's daily, yeah, basically. I had to fax so many things to them to get them to say, okay, you're good. So anyways, that now I have to, copy the file, I gotta do some of that, but the $64.80 that we pay each month will go away. So that's a big number, really.
Savings. That's a big savings.
And then, so the $64.80 came out this month, but hopefully it won't come out next month. So we'll see, I'll do my best on that. So the total check request this month is $3,111.60.
All right, can I have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a motion.
Dave's motioning to pay the bills, and who'd like to second? And Dan seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right, committee reports. So actually, Bill, I'm gonna kind of turn this over to you so you can talk about your two things. I probably should have put those together.
Oh, for the communication thing?
Yeah, the confirmation and then
Oh, yeah.
the,
All right. So what we found, going through all the bylaws and subcommittee reports and all this other stuff, we don't really have an official mechanism recognizing, as we vote in the chairs and stuff like that. And so Mary and I went back and forth and said, to me, the easiest way was basically discuss, identify those chairs, put them in our minutes, and then we have an official document that says, this person's the chair of this one, this person's the chair of this one. And that just makes it easy peasy.
yeah. And next year, remember there was one resolution was like this long gobbledygook thing. We'll just add it in there next year. We need a motion, first of all, for the chair of governance, which would be Bill McDonough. So can I have a motion to make Bill the chair, and then I'll need a second.
I'll motion.
Mandy motion to make Bill McDonough the chair of governance, and can we have, and Pam is seconding that. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, anybody
Aye.
opposed? Nope, everybody's good, all right. We need a second motion on the floor to make Dave Snow the chair of the finance committee.
I'll make that
Put the
motion.
lives in your own hands, I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Carol has made the motion, may I have a second?
Oh, I'll do it.
Bill would do it, yeah, brother-in-law, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Yep, okay, great, we got everybody. All right, so you got that, Jeannie?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, I wanted to make sure, because I know sometimes it's hard to hear. Okay, that means, Dave, did you have anything from a finance report?
So you heard the audit, obviously Carol did all the work on that. We do have to have 2 meetings a year according to the bylaw. So is there a process for setting meeting times internally for those, or?
We
I couldn't
usually,
find anything in it.
yeah, no, we usually, now, once we get the admin person, they would assist you in doing that. But what we've done in the past is just sort of, like for finance, was Joe and me and Carol, and we just said, when can we get together? And we got together at the office and had a meeting.
Okay,
So, but once Casey's on board, then, you could work with her and she could work with calendars, and then you don't have to do the whole email
okay.
thing.
And I think it'd be nice to standardize, 2 meetings a
April,
year, they're
October.
always, yeah. stuff
April and
like that, so
October
that
are the.
it's not confusing, we don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it every 6 months. Budget's due in October anyway, so
Yeah.
I just don't know how to get it out there, so I will send those out.
Yeah, and it's just Carol and me, because it's the 3 of us on the committee. So.
Okay, and then the other thing is that, those 3, I'll have a draft of those 3 policies: capitalization, transactions, and, credit loss
Okay.
policies, just for next month, and then we'll pass them around and see what anyone.
Yeah, and you can put them on Google Drive in for
I will.
review. And then I think we'll need resolutions, but I can help with that. Or Bill helps with that, because he always corrects mine when they're wrong. It's a team
I'll
effort.
just send it right to him.
There you go, that'd probably be a good idea. All right, good. Anything else for finance? Nope, great, thanks, Dave. All right, Bill, over to you on
All right.
communications process.
So it was really the outcome of the last meeting. One of the things was, because we're in this transformation phase. And Scott has been the planner grant writer for the town and the village, and then the LDC stood up and they're kind of transitioning, et cetera, et cetera. And he still has demands levied against him for existing projects. And so how do we go ahead and prioritize this time? So based on that, Mary did that email kind of sent out for everyone to review kind of some suggested language. And then there was a meeting with the supervisor, the mayor, Pam, Dan, Mary, and myself. And basically, to a person, they agreed. And so we said, what's the best way to do it? We used the existing communication form, which you saw before. The blue's not showing up real well on the title. It just says the use of the grant writer planner. On the back is really the meat of it, which is a simple email from either supervisor deputy or the mayor or the deputy to the 4 officers that you see identified there, just with some 5 W's. There are the key information. So this is what we're going to do. We discuss internally to help prioritize if there's any impacts, because not only does Scott have, a day job and about 11 other things he's got to do, it helps prioritize time between those village, town, and the LDC efforts. And so that's what you see before you.
So, anybody have any concerns about that?
Nice.
No? Okay, yeah, and, I mean, I don't know, Dan and Pam, if you want to share that with your larger boards, feel free to do that.
Yep.
Because I know Bill went in the past to the full boards about the front part.
Right.
So this is just an addendum to it. It would be ideal if we had one person, if we ever get to an executive director, it wouldn't be an email going to 4 people. It would be just going to the executive director. But right now, we're a team.
Do we need a motion to implement this?
Probably doesn't hurt. So can we have a motion to implement this?
I'll motion.
Mandy will motion. I need a second. Bill is seconding it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, moving right along. And this is when it's gonna slow down. Okay, let's talk about Club Street. Dan and Scott, do you want to kind of bring everybody up to speed on where we are on it?
Not much going on, so
Lots going on. Trying to put everything in place from the steering committee a couple of weeks ago. Mary put in a lot of time on Q&As, common Q&As. Rob Russell also stepped up and put a lot of effort into the talking points. Shared with Paul, myself, Scott, Christine at the steering committee chair. Through the feedback, got to a finalization. Scott put together a letter. The
FAQs.
FAQs, the directions on how to apply for a absentee ballot. I don't know if they've all been mailed, but I know they've been working.
Yeah, I mean, we mailed a bunch of them yesterday. I went in and helped them fold
Did you?
because I thought, LDC should have a piece and I like
So
Michelle.
if they're not all out, they will be this week. We were in crunch mode. We did get approval as long as the absentee is dated by the 13th, which is the date of the vote. It's applicable. So it's not a regular election. We could, because it's a town referendum, we could choose that date.
The 13th of April.
April.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the night. Is
It's
the-
a
is-
Saturday from 12 to 6.
Okay,
That's the date of the vote.
and so absentee ballots are requested how?
It's in the letter you're gonna get in the mail.
Okay,
you gotta call.
You have to request to get one. So once they request it, they get it as long as it's postal. So they've got a month,
okay,
but that's why we were in
Thank
such a push to get things out the door. So thank you for your help.
Oh, no
That's
problem.
huge. And Rob as well. I'm not sure where we're gonna utilize that yet. We did not put it in the mailing.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is so a lot of people, so I think most people are familiar with an FAQ. So bold question, answer, bold question, answer. We did, what Rob Russell did is a side by side. So it said, here's a point. if you vote, if it's passed, this is what happens. If it doesn't pass, this is what happens. And so it's just a side by side, yes and no. I think, I think at least where I'm still a little confused and maybe we're just not there yet is sort of what's the overall communication plan and like, what's the timing? Because that's going to impact when we do our full page ad, like, because we want to make sure that that's timed correctly. And, does it make sense to, have handouts every place where what's happening is that
Yeah, I
planned?
even thought, based on the 1A, 1B, 1C, is to have a paragraph under each one. This is what we have in hand. With the purchase of these properties, we're able to do this right now. If we get the New York forward, no difference. I don't know. Is that
Yeah,
too
it's
much?
like, well, people seem to get confused with the ABC unless there's somebody there having a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the beginning, I was confused. I'm like, do we have one doc or two docs? It's like some pictures show one, some show two. So I mean, and I'm kind of closer to it than your average person, down by a cup of joy. So I think there's gotta be sort of like, how do you lay this out step by step from a communication plan so everybody knows what's happening?
I mean, that was a request that we got from the community. Lay out what you have, lay out if you get New York forward, lay out if you get New York forward.
Yeah, no, and I think that's good. It's just, where do you use that information? Is all I'm suggesting.
Is it gonna be too much to put in the Sun? That's the full page ad.
Well, what I did send and I think you guys should have all seen an email of a rough sketch. That's basically that side by side is what Rob came up with. And Jim, do you want to talk now about what you mocked up for a full page ad?
Sure, and I apologize because I had to do it on the Acela yesterday coming up from Washington. So I couldn't get to a computer to put it in the form it should look like. Oh, it actually is done in the form here. Did somebody do this?
Yeah, no, so this is when we talk about the Rob Russell side by side, this is what I forwarded to you as potential
Oh, yeah.
information for it. And
Yeah.
then you sort of sketched out how it would look more
Yeah.
as an advertisement.
That's right. Yeah. Well, a couple of things, if I could say this about referendums. By the way, Mary, I did have one question. Who are the referendum voters different than voters who would vote in an election? In other words, I can't vote in the Cape Vincent election as a New York voter, right? I'm a New Jersey resident. But is a referendum allow taxpayers to vote, and it's a little less stringent on its requirements for voting in a referendum?
The term is resident.
It's limited to permanent residents.
You don't have to be a registered voter. You don't have to be a property owner. It's resident.
So using Jim as an example, Jim
Or
is,
me.
or Jeannie, would they be able to vote?
If they're residents in New York, if they're residents in Florida, no.
Okay.
Okay.
And me, I can't vote normally, but I can vote in this.
Because you're a resident.
Okay. All right. I was just curious about that to begin with, for myself on that. So a couple of observations. Personally, I've actually run a lot of these referendum campaigns around the country, big and small, whatever. And one of the rules of referendums is the simpler, the better. And if you have people salute even symbols, I know this sounds really crazy and superficial, but you get more positive results by making things simple to people. And I thought, actually, when I saw this, I liked this as it looked like it was a guide to vote, but actually it's a persuasion tool to get a yes vote on here. So I only took that. I only suggested changes in the roughest draft, which I did on the Acela coming up from Washington yesterday because I couldn't get to a computer. I would change some of the language in the boxes to make it more blunt and simpler. And I sent the copy changes for that That I could do on my iPad coming up, and that's a little easier to read what that is. And it's only suggested, by the way, because some of it is not right. It wasn't a village, and there's some other things in there that could be changed, the wording changed. That's the wording that I sent up for this, but the box format for the ad I thought was really good, because the top third of the ad really should have, as we talked before, I'd strongly recommend we take the best visual we have of what that's going to look like, preferably eye level, even if we don't have it, somehow we find one. But the above scheme, that's okay too. But eye level is always best. And the color change, I would recommend that the colors, because it's a green and blue situation, which in referendums and campaign material, green and blue are absolutely big winners of color subliminally, believe it or not. So if we had that picture on the top of the ad on there, the week in the week before the election, the referendum, sorry, and we have that explanatory graph under there, which is again, I wrote that in the content page. Didn't change much about it. I thought it was actually good. But you want to emphasize in the design of the ad, yes is what we want there. And on the design, when we do the ad, we would show a yes with a check mark, and to a slogan, if you will, to a town on the rise, or some slogan like that makes people,
Yeah,
want
I
to
like
vote.
I like the community word. There was some, Scott came
Yep.
up with that. If you saw that, I thought that was really
Community's good. Yep, community's good. And then underneath, I like the box thing because it was a menu thing, and it wasn't either or, and it did show benefit to yes. Yes gets you this. No doesn't get you this, right? And then underneath of that, a reminder that for more information, you want to go to a site where the Q&As are housed on there, and then a paid for line on the bottom to say that it's we that are doing the ad, and we is who. We can't assume even that people really know what we are. So a little explanation to who we are on the paid for line would probably be good. And then the other thing I was going to suggest is that we could talk to the TI Sun. If they're going to print something like this, often newspapers will print little handout types of thing as part of the deal, incidental money. Sometimes they give it to you. That might be stuffers. That stuffers could be put on the week before the vote, on under windshields, wipers, or indoors, depending on volunteers or what people want to do or how you want to do it. Yes, some people complain about a piece of paper put on their windshield, but that's one of 100. But to maybe tie in this ad with that, stuffer, that's what they call it, a bit of a stuffer campaign. And that stuffer would only be exactly what the ad is, with perhaps on the other side of it, the Q&As on print there as well. So you don't have to go through a lot of complexity to get this done. The most complex part really is two parts, probably agreeing on all the language that's in the suggested edits here that I sent, and change at will to make it better. We only want the best thing in anyway, right? And then maybe negotiate with the Thousand Island Sun to, I don't know what the deal is up there about how you get, because I used to have an advertising company up till December 31st, and I would have handed this to somebody to create an ad. Okay, now I'm the company of one, since that deal is over. So we have to find somebody to sort of get an ad ready, or a quick conversation with the TI Sun, to the extent that if we gave them art, we gave them copy, can they do this suggested ad in that fashion? You got some options. So two real options are, three really. Do you still want to do an ad? Two, clean the copy up in the design and agree on the words. And then three, the stuffers, the little flyers that you want to go around. Again, I'd recommend they be the exact same thing that the ad is on one side and the Q&As on the back side that you're going to be housing wherever you're going to house those Q&As.
So there aren't a lot of cars on the street this time of year but there are particular places, Jim, where what's happening is piled up and people pick them up. What's happening being the Chamber of Commerce monthly thing. So if we did agree that we needed something that's sort of around town, that would probably be the right locations. What do you guys think?
Can we add into what's happening? Can we put a page ad in there?
Yeah. Why don't?
It would be great to do that. The chamber currently, the executive director has resigned. And the chamber doesn't, and the chamber, I'm not sure they know how what's happening in April is gonna come out. We certainly can, I know you're our rep
I can ask.
on Monday. I know there's a meeting Monday night. But certainly that would be something where we could get it out. I guess so did everybody have a chance to look at his sort of mocked up hand-drawn thing?
Yes,
What were people's thoughts on that?
I think it's gonna be great to have that as
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, I think so. I liked
You
it. Did
know-
see the thing from Jim?
I did, I didn't get to go through it too.
Well, it was just a
I know,
quick,
yeah.
like, it wasn't read the words, it was sort of
And it
agree
was
with
each
the
section
format.
that was just on the
It was
screen.
similar to
Yeah.
that.
It was similar to that.
Is the development committee planning on paying for the ad and
Yes.
sign, and what would be the timing of that? Do we have any idea?
He wants to have it come, the paper that comes out right before the vote,
So that.
Right, the week
before
before.
the 13th,
the week before.
So let's look at that actually.
The 11th.
Well, the
Yeah.
paper gets delivered to my house on Thursdays. so-
Yeah, but I think it goes to print
And
on,
Wednesdays, it varies, right?
10th or 11th.
yeah, it'd be the 10th or the 11th. So it'd be in people's, and if we had the things around town, even before that, would probably be.
And we want it just landing in people's hands 2 days before the vote or a week and 2 days?
I think a week. I target April 3rd.
Jim, what do you think?
The week before, in the paper, because usually the week, excuse me,
We go.
the week before. So wait a minute, it's the 13th. Let me
It's
check my
a Saturday.
calendar.
So you got the
That's
4th
the
and the 11th.
It's
Yeah.
either the 4th or the 11th of April, which
Yeah,
do you recommend?
a fourth, because to come back to the handout, when I said windshield before, one of the things first of all, you can't put stuffers in mailboxes, it's against the law. And it used to be nice because people used to have newspaper mailboxes, which you could put them in, and that's not against the law, but they don't have newspaper boxes now. But you can put them under the windshield wipers of cars in people's driveways and things like that. That's as good as delivering to the house. And what typically would happen is you put that ad up a week and a half before, or a week before, and the week leading up is where the paper, the stuffers are put as the reminder, to vote Saturday, April 13th, and it would have the same ad, and it would have the other side Q&A, and it would be a reinforcing current tool to drive people to vote and vote yes on there on Saturday.
And it'd be
You
the
know what
size
I'm
of the paper.
thinking? I'm sorry, guys. What I'm thinking for the stuffers, what if we distribute those to all the local businesses? And even going to Dollar General and asking them, would they put it in each bag that just as a stuffer? I wonder if the businesses would cooperate. Obviously, it's to their benefit. But if you think of the different places that people congregate this time of year, obviously Dollar General, Albury's. I don't know when Channel Marker's opening with Mike. That's going to be a big trial for a period of time. You've got the American Legion. I'm sure Donna would agree to that. Snug Harbor. I mean, all those businesses that we did one-on-one focus groups, if those could be distributed in those establishments, it would be really cool if we can get the grocery stores, because who doesn't stop either at Albertsons or Dollar General to pick up milk and they always get oh, you guys don't get bags in New York, that's right. But
Yeah.
again, it's just something to think about. How
Yeah,
can we
that's,
easily
yeah,
get it
Jeannie,
distributed?
yeah, that's where I was suggesting where what's happening, that's where all the what's happening.
I know, but what happens if that doesn't come out?
Well, we would just put it in its place. We'd put it
Oh,
in
I
its
see.
places. That's what I'm saying. We would just, either we stop
Oh,
happening or we just put it in all of those locations. Cause that's sort of tried and true where people pick stuff up. Was
Okay,
kind of
got it.
what happened.
So
Okay.
if this is gonna be in the paper that's on the 4th, that's getting published on the 1st, when's this stuff getting to the TI Sun? Because that's practically tomorrow and it's literally 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks. Well, that's so.
we gotta
If
get it in.
yeah, well, if we overall agree with the format, right, which is sort of, I mean, first of all, Scott, can we get the like graphic that Jim is asking for, the sort of street level diagram? Do we have that? Okay, so we don't
I
have
don't
that.
have a street level diagram. I took that diagram he asked for and had Ben make the water. He asked for the overall,
Yeah.
visual, the water more blue.
Yeah, so
That's
does
okay.
that will work? Will that work?
No,
Jim?
no, no, that works.
Okay,
I
all
have
right.
That works.
Have street level, but I'll pull them up, hold on. They're not, you can't see the river in the street level that I have.
Right.
Okay.
I
So,
have the proposed parts, but you can't see like the view.
so we already, I believe we already had a motion that said we're gonna pay for this ad. So now it's just a matter of making sure that the ad gets done in time in order to get it there. And then obviously, you know, the devil's in the details. So this is the street level view, but yeah, it doesn't
I
show
have
the water.
Like each section, like that we submitted in New York forward on what they would look like at the street level view, but I don't have anything that shows the water.
I think we need to be consistent with the overhead,
The overhead's the only thing that shows
the dock.
for your yes, this.
And the
is
water.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so everybody's sort of saying, I think we need to use what Scott sent to Jim.
Okay.
Okay. And
Now,
so,
to be clear, Mary, that's the one that Scott sent that
and
was
it's
above,
looking
right?
down. It's
Yeah,
looking
and then
down
we
so
were
you
gonna-
see the dock.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because those street level ones are where more stuff is gonna have happened, and that I think is confusing.
Alright.
These sort of graphics are what people have seen. So with the bluer water, hopefully that'll
Well,
do it.
it was blue and green though, right? It was, as I recall, it showed the greenery and then it
Yeah.
showed the greenery and the blue water, right? And we were going to intensify those
Scott, can you
colors.
bring that up? Scott's bringing it up, so we're sure which one it is. And then the other thing is the devil's in the detail with obviously what it says in each of those little blocks. And so how do we want to handle that? Because just having 3 or 4 people look at the FAQs, you know, I remember working at IBM and saying, really, how many IBMers does it take to write a sentence? So,
So I have this, but I
Yeah, I
have
think that's great. That's a great graphic, Scott.
yeah, but
the
that's
numbers taken
Yeah,
out,
our issue,
but you just want scenario one,
just scenario, I think just scenario 1, because that's what the referendum is for.
just scenario one with none of the letters, none of those boxes. Just the
Right.
picture that
Yeah.
blue and green.
swing for the fences.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we want.
I'll get it for you.
All right, and then Jim, you had some recommendations above on the wording in the boxes past what I sent you, which is what Scott
Yes.
just showed.
Yes,
So,
I was just gonna say, I sent the, as advertorial draft copy, I sent what all new words would be. It wasn't, I used a lot of what was sent before. That's not the issue,
Yeah.
but this would be the cleaned up copy that just needs to be checked for anything that's incorrect. Or you might feel is a little too pushy or improper. I mean, because I used a lot of words like shuttered business, blah, 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 that type of thing. No, just to make, the yes and no apparent decisions, right? So
I
that
mean,
was sent.
there's been a couple of versions,
I
so,
tried that too, Jim, but they didn't like that.
yeah, well, there were a couple of versions and, some felt a little bit, almost went to it, again, Mary's opinion, propaganda. It wasn't as much as information as it was.
Too leading.
It was too leaning. Yeah.
So I did look,
But-
I don't know which box version I got, but the box version I got, what I tried to do to rewrite that was to make it look like it was a voter's guide a little bit, and hedge on some of the words a little bit, but it was written to make clear that you'd have to be, pardon me, you'd have to be an idiot not to vote yes.
Okay, so I guess the question, because we don't want to sit here and wordsmith this.
Yeah.
Who can, can we have just two people that are gonna work with him to finalize this? And should that be Dan and Pam because it's town village stuff?
Or
Not
Scott.
to right, well, and Scott, yeah.
I agree. I would just have someone work with Jim to get this done.
We want this, the ad to match what we hand out. We're gonna be back to square one. You know what we.
I don't want to spin. That's why I'm trying to say, I don't want our whole committee to say, well, I think that should say that instead of this,
No, yeah.
Actually, I think that's a good
Yeah, everybody
suggestion.
has seen this. Everybody's seen this.
I don't think everybody on
No.
this board.
No, not,
No.
No.
Is that what went out?
Just finalized.
no, this hasn't gone anywhere. The only thing that went out was the FAQs and the letter that Scott
Do you
wrote.
have a copy of that? Or-
Of the FAQs? Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I
so
can,
this
you
didn't
can
come out
send
in
it
the
to
letter
me.
to people?
I will, yeah, it went to Christine for the steering committee to get, so,
Okay.
but let me, I'll.
So what I'm
I might
hearing
have
Jim
missed it.
say is he's using this document and he's,
She might
and
already
he's,
sent it
and
out,
he's
yeah.
smithing the words a little bit differently.
Yeah, we went wrong with this.
Yeah,
No,
what
and which is fine, but.
yeah, so,
So keep the same group.
Let's hear what he's saying.
Already been
You know,
done.
what I'm using is the style of that box structure there. Much of the wording is the same, but if that committee of 2 or 3, and 3 is a good one because it's 2 to 1 on the compromises that you need to make. If you could look at basically the content that I've submitted here, it's literally not that difficult because it's just it's a page and a half, really.
Jim, this is what would really help. This is what I have seen has helped with the other go-rounds on this stuff. If you could take the one I sent you and use Word mock-up to show what you want to change. And then we'll send it to the people who have been, so it's Christine from the steering committee, Dan, Scott, I think Paul's on there. And Pam, we can add you to
No,
those.
that's okay. If it goes
Really?
to Christina.
Yeah, it's going to Christine
Okay.
and Rob, because he was the originator of it. So if you can just use marking it up, mark in red or strike through or whatever. And then we'll ask for a very quick turnaround time because we're gonna,
He has this.
he has this. I sent him the last version. So you should be working on, you know what, just to make sure, do you have the last one? Can you just send it to
I
Jim?
think that's it.
Yeah, can you just forward it to Jim right now? Jim, Scott is gonna send you what we think is final, that you can
Okay.
use markup to make your recommendations.
Okay, that's
Is
good.
it in a Word document?
It is
Got it.
Word, yeah, it's Word, so it's easy enough to use markup for it.
And then what else is gonna be done with this other than put in the paper, this whole particular document?
Well, that was, if he can get copies, we'll do it where what's happening is.
It's not going out to us in letters, all right,
No, because that's already done,
okay.
the FAQs.
I would suggest one more thing that we consider what's called a blow-in, which is to take those handouts that we're gonna have printed and ask some friends at the Watertown Daily Times or something like that. Can they put them in that weekend paper the week before? They don't print anymore on Sunday. It comes out on, I think, Saturday, right, or Friday, the new weekend edition. Well, that's what they've changed it to right now. But I know Johnson. I could ask him if they could just do that, or let the vendors in town do it on all the papers on the Sunday before. You just put them in the papers. I love the idea about putting them in the Dollar General thing, or even at Aubrey's, put them in the grocery bags. That would be tremendous.
Okay. All right, so, yes,
Is that gonna be posted on the village and the town website?
It'll be on the town website.
right, so Dan, do you want to talk about the town, and Scott about the town website? Where are we on?
Yeah,
on this?
they're working on a landing page, so somebody can click on it. Everything will be there, the pictures,
It's becoming too much on the homepage with all the different documents, so, the town staff tried to do a landing page themselves, it didn't work. They were having some issues, so they hired a web person to create a landing page and put everything on that, so there would be a drop down to just the Club Street and then have all the documents on the same page. And it should be done by tomorrow, Paul hopes.
All right, so, and what's gonna be on there? So why don't we know that there's already some stuff that's sort of in with the other documents, but what's gonna be on that landing page? Does anybody know?
there'll be those,
Those,
the FAQs.
The complete, the whole plan that was presented by Edgewater, like the 83-page plan, the conceptual plan that was redone by the steering committee. Have the presentation we're working on that should be done shortly. All the public meetings, I think they had the public meetings on there, like the presentations from the public meetings.
Scott, work with them to try to get it in some kind of order. Cause
We
my,
got that.
yeah,
I don't
cause
know if it's gonna be posted, we're working on it.
no, cause I was gonna say, cause that's like so much information that you almost wanna have, these are the 3 big things to look at. And then everything else is more info, like get it below the fold, people will just get. You at least have the first 3 things be the things you want to say before they walk away from the site. If you can.
That was the question I had, forgot to ask it. Can you link a request for an absentee on the website that they can
Yeah.
download, print, and send in?
Yeah, sure you can.
I mean, she sent me
Is that gonna be on that?
you can have them, but I don't.
I
know
would
what's
think
gonna
we
be-
would want to.
Yeah, I mean, she sent it to me in a PDF version, so you could just post that PDF there and somebody can just print it off. and
You,
mail
you
it.
mean a request for an absentee ballot?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
That'd
can
be great.
use a UR code, guys, that people take a picture on their phone.
Mhm.
And that can produce the document.
So for the ad, Jim, you're gonna mock up and if you want to send that to me, then I'll get it to the people that we listed, so he doesn't have to worry about all that, because I know who's sort of been on that round robin.
And that'll be fine.
Yep, and we'll ask everybody to respond quickly. Do you also want to this week call the TI Sun and see if they have people who can help with laying out the visual and the boxes?
Yeah, I'll call them tomorrow morning.
Okay, if they cannot do that and we need to hire someone to do that, 1, do you know somebody? And 2, how much would it cost us
should do what?
to lay out the ad if the TI Sun can't?
I do, yes, I know people do. I don't know how much it would cost. I think it's just I think it's a couple of $100, but I'm not positive. I think it's only that, but maybe I can get it done free.
Okay.
I'll call
So,
also
but I
tomorrow.
don't want to slow us up because we're on a very tight timeline.
Yep.
I would suggest that someone make a motion for some amount of money that says if he needs that to get the ad ready for the paper, we authorize him to just go.
What is our cap?
Yeah.
What's our?
It's 500, right?
What's that?
Isn't it 500? What's the cap we have financially where we don't have to
Oh,
make a
the
motion?
minimum max or
I'd have to see for the services like that, so I don't think it's 500,000, it's like 1,000.
I think you can authorize 1,000 yourself.
Right, I don't think, yeah.
Okay, great. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. So it's not gonna cost more than we're authorized to spend. And Jim, you pay it, and then Carol will write you a check.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So is there anything else on this ad that we need to think about? The other thing I would encourage is if anybody would like to use this information to write a letter to the editor in support of the referendum from the board, I think that would be a really good thing. So if anybody wants to do that, I would just say these are good talking points to use. The FAQs you'll all get in the mail are other good talking points that have been scrubbed thoroughly. So they're the right answers. You're not gonna like write a letter and say something that isn't true. So I would
You
just.
know, I think once Jim gets his ad copy done, then to write letters to the editor, we can replicate the word tracks. And I think that's gonna be key factor. So as soon as we get that copy on that ad, share it, Jim, and then we can create some letters to the editor.
And I'll send the FAQ document out to everybody on the board as
Thank you,
well. 'Cause
Mary.
It's got
Yeah.
a little bit more in it, I think, that you might be able to like pick from. Okay,
Sure.
excellent.
No problem.
Anything else on Club Street? Going, gone. Okay. Admin. So thanks to Jeannie for her leadership, Mandy for her participation. We have a successful candidate. There has been a verbal offer. It has been accepted. I've got the information now from Jeannie on how to write an acceptance letter or a formal offer letter. And I sent it to Tina. She had a couple of things to add in, so I'll get that done and get it out to Casey
Great.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Once that's done, we need to think about an official start date. I'm thinking we start her at the beginning of April. Just because she's gonna have to do some payroll stuff. She doesn't have to do drug testing. Tina came back and said we didn't have to do that, so that was good.
Is there a background screen needed?
No, only for people in certain positions for the town.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So that was good. I do have to update the IMA, because we're going to have to pay the town. She will be a town employee with me providing as the chair supervision of her. She'll get paid, she'll put time in probably twice a month, but she'll get paid once a month. It says 20 hours, anything above 20 hours, she would have to have previous or authorization from the board prior. It says we will buy her a computer. And Scott's got a printer he's gonna bring over to the office, so we'll have that. I looked at TechSoup. They didn't have anything as far as a reasonable price computer. I looked at my IBM retiree discount. It wasn't any cheaper than Best Buy. So my recommendation is if somebody from the board would like to take that to buy the laptop and whatever else she needs, mouse, keyboard. So
I look at HP too, guys, online. Best
Yeah,
Buy,
I
you'll
looked at
get
yeah,
HP online, it's usually the cheapest state. And she would like for in office, if she could have a monitor screen, they're cheap. But the laptop is, HP maybe would be a good website
Yeah,
to
through
look at.
through IBM, the cheapest ones were HP or Dell. Both of them were.
Yeah, and the town can't give us any, does the town purchase equipment or the village where we could jump on theirs? Because sometimes their volume, I don't know how much they buy. They may not buy it enough to make a difference.
we don't buy enough. I mean, we have basically
Okay,
one police department, Mary's. Yeah, we don't have a lot.
Okay.
okay,
Buy from Best Buy because it's cheaper than.
Well, no, I'm absolutely right, Scott. What I did was I compared like my big IBM retiree discount. I was like, then I went to Best Buy. I'm like, Best Buy is cheaper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so my recommendation is we just, you know, whoever, I mean, I'm happy to do it unless anybody else wants to take that on. To get the computer, the monitor, the keyboard, you know, do all of that and then just get reimbursed. Does anybody else want to do that? Don't all jump at once. Oh my goodness. I am happy to do that if I can get a motion. I'll keep it, it'll obviously be under $1,500. We're not gonna go for anything big and fancy. I'll make sure it hooks to this. Cause that's critical.
I'll motion that,
That Mary does
Mary
this.
does
Thank
this.
you, Dave. Really appreciate that.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Dave and a second from Pam that Mary will go and get a laptop computer, a monitor, a mouse, a keyboard. So that's in the office, and then she'll have the laptop to take back and forth.
You could also compare Staples where we have an account and a tax exempt set up and make sure you take the tax exempt form.
Staples, excellent.
And make sure you use the tax exempt form that's in the things.
Ooh, never thought of that.
Because we don't have to pay
Staples.
sales tax anymore on what we buy every time we give them a certificate.
And do we have to do that for Best Buy too, if we want to use Best Buy, or I can just use the
Anybody,
form?
you
I
have
can
to, you have to use this, the form is there, you print it out and you fill it out and use it.
Excellent, got it. Excellent, good. All right, so let's see. So we had Dave happily gave it to me and Pam seconded. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, good. That's the update on that. And I'll put begin first Monday of April start date. For that. I do have to update the IMA. Dan's gonna talk, to the town to see the best way, since they're gonna actually pay her. No, Carol's gonna, never mind. Carol's gonna talk to Tina.
you get something done.
Yeah, Carol's gonna talk to Tina. So, and then you'll let me know for updating the IMA. And then Pam, you're gonna let me know what I forgot I have to update
I hope
before.
I will, yes.
Yeah,
I wrote
it was
it
you
down.
called me on the phone from a village meeting, so somebody
All
might
right, they'll
remember.
be in my village.
I just want to do it all at once. I don't want to do it
Gotcha.
twice.
Can we jump to town activities?
That's absolutely what we were gonna do next.
Cool.
Go, Dan.
Just on the sewer survey, Mary brought it up. Timing was crunch time. Barton and LeJudas went ahead and did it. We met with, again, the village and the LDC and the town. Our intent is to have you collect it, come back with the results and tell the town it makes sense to pursue, makes sense to pull the plug at our expense. We don't know what that expense is, but that's what we discussed. The only other thing I got, we talked about Club Street. We also got some prices on busing for the eclipse. Our board hasn't talked about it as a whole, haven't talked to the village yet, and I'm throwing it out here with you folks. They've closed school that day as opposed to delaying it and keeping the kids later, so there's no school. Talked to the superintendent, it's $225 per mile and $35 an hour for the driver. So per bus,
$2.25 or 225?
$2.25 per mile, and then $35 an hour. So if you figure 5-6 hours, it's probably gonna be $400 per bus. The idea was we might be able to park here, the town building, maybe we could ask the school for their parking and bus people up to Tibbetts Point and bring them back. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but that's what we discussed. We're looking into it.
So let me add to that sometime. At the chamber meeting,
Mhm.
they discussed the eclipse in detail. They're not planning anything because if they plan anything and advertise anything, you have to have a mass gathering permit. Watertown's getting hammered right now.
Mhm.
So if you have buses and you advertise it, you're gonna be screwed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would
We
maybe
got a
not. do
note
that.
from DOH, because we put an ad out, and they said, if you advertise and do not have a mass gathering permit, you're gonna be in trouble with the state of New York.
Yeah, so the chamber's not doing anything, and then, they're not gonna prevent people from coming to Cape, but they're not advertising anything happening.
Yeah,
because of
our
that.
concern is
So,
Tibbetts.
I agree, but if you advertise. you're
Yeah.
gonna get hammered.
So does that mean when I put something on Facebook that says the visitor center will be open?
I think that's
not
a normal
advertising
duty.
an event. They're
No.
advertising and
Yeah.
like, we're gonna help with the event. And a mass gathering permit, you need like a EMS plan, you need a fire plan, you need X amount of police on duty.
That's the same thing they're running into at the French Festival,
Right.
you know, that's why the
Okay.
costs have increased because of the mass gathering permit they
So
need.
careful on your Facebook posts.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
just like,
We-
we're gonna
we
be open 11 to 5, you can get a hamburger and,
We took our quote down immediately,
yeah.
because then if something happens and you don't have a mass gathering permit, screwed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just don't know. what we're gonna
No, I'm
do
just-
if it's
That was shit.
people are
Well, I mean, I sent a letter to my neighbors that said,
Thank you.
block your lawn. And if people are parking, ask them to park on the riverside, so there's an emergency. I mean, I
And
was
know the
hoping
fire
that,
department, they're talking about it, maybe one way,
well, yeah, I mean,
way
that's-
up and close it, nobody coming the other way until it's over.
Yeah.
I don't,
well, and as I said to, somebody was giving me a hard time, I was like, whether Tibbetts Point Lighthouse is open or not, that road is gonna be crazy.
crazy.
It's a perfect viewing spot. New York State said we were one of the top 5 places in the state to see the eclipse. Now, we didn't ask them to do that, they just did it. So
And I'm gonna ask to be excused if I could.
you can. Oh, one thing though, the meeting,
meeting.
Pam, the 4-3 meeting.
Yeah, did everybody respond on that?
I don't think there was anything that went out. So can you just talk briefly about that? Because there was some discussion, but we never,
Right, so we were originally trying to do the joint meeting on the 28th, and then we requested the 3rd of April.
3rd.
And I heard back from everyone except for the town.
yeah,
Third is a Thursday.
Wednesday,
it's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Paul's the Thursday guy
Okay,
with the milking,
all right,
so I
so
know
that
that,
won't
I
work.
know that's an issue.
Okay,
He
all
has
right.
Thursday nights off.
all right, so we'll have to, I'll check in with, the rest of the-
Yeah, do you want to talk though just briefly for these guys on what the intent of the meeting is? Cause this isn't like where we're gonna, I mean, we can talk about our financials. We're certainly not gonna be ready to talk about the strategic plan.
I'm gonna have to check with somebody else. I'm not even sure what the intent is in that meeting.
I mean,
So,
Carol, are
um,
you around on the 3rd if it does go on the 3rd?
I'm here in the 3rd and the 4th.
okay.
Okay,
But otherwise, if we don't do that one. And just go to our regular,
we haven't
We haven't
scheduled
set-
that.
we
We
haven't
have
set
not
the
set that
regular-
date yet, no.
should we?
What's
Because
this
the
meeting-
idea
what's this
was,
Meeting for?
There was gonna be a meeting to talk more about Club Street, but I don't know that it's necessary.
yeah, they,
I mean, I think that was a good.
But there's been a meeting,
This isn't our regular joint meeting.
no, what I said at the point when they requested it, I said, that's too early, you know,
Right,
we
to
were
have
kind of
it.
hoping we could at least have something around the strategic plan for the meeting.
right,
April is when we're supposed to have it, and that's just to basically take everybody through the financials. You know, where we are financially, which honestly, we could send them the regular
Right.
report for March,
right.
right? Cause we're not gonna have anything different.
Yeah, I think Jerry was the one that was pushing.
He was pushing it.
Pushing.
I mean,
So
I
let me-
do,
Let me check I'll check with Jerry and then we'll.
yeah, if you can come back to us with this is what we want to accomplish in the meeting.
Right,
And then, I mean, if we do have a meeting sometime in April based on what Jerry had in mind, then I think we push our joint meeting till Scott's ready to share a preliminary plan.
okay. So if the 3rd and 4th, who Paul is no for the
Third,
3rd.
Yeah.
So the 4th, okay, and I think.
I thought it was good. I apologize. I thought
Yeah.
it was-
Town work session.
Huh?
Fourth is the town work session.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul has Thursday nights off
Okay,
from milking.
all right.
I thought we were set on the 4th.
I thought we were gonna do it in lieu of or in conjunction with the scheduled meeting.
Right.
That's what I thought.
yeah,
So the 4th would still work then for the majority.
yeah, I
Okay,
think so.
All right, so I'll just double check
And
that.
Carol, I'm
Leave
thinking
it
all we
at
do
that.
is, I mean,
Jerry's
Jerry-
changed his too. I don't know.
I'll check.
cause I don't have anything.
All right,
else.
go JCT.
All right, excellent. All right, thank
you.
you. All right, so, Pam,
Yeah, still is. Well, we keep saying that the ready projects, we're still trying to close them out. We are narrowing the gap of the overage, so that's positive. It does have to be closed out by April 1st, so that should be happening. right? Isn't that the?
Yeah, we got a bunch of deposits coming
Right.
tomorrow, and then hopefully have some other ones today, and tomorrow.
And then we spent a good chunk of time talking about Horns Ferry. Jerry has spoken with the mayor of Wolf Island.
Oh, he did talk to Judy.
Yeah, and so they're trying to work together to talk to George as well, find him physically first and have as many conversations with him. He's not back yet, I don't think, but he must be coming anytime. So hopefully his health is okay. We really don't know. We had heard he wasn't doing that well, but he was managed to travel to Florida, so. So that is top priority for Jerry, in addition to Reddy, but he's really just trying to make sure that they get off to a good start, see what we have to do to come to an agreement with George.
That'd be great.
And move forward. New York Forward, there's been no communication. So their schedule had us hearing what all the projects were going to be awarded by the end of last year, and we have heard nothing. So
That's because some other areas didn't get their projects in time.
oh, and that's affecting.
That's affecting everybody. We're not gonna start announcing regions until every region has been selected. And some other regions, were late.
Okay. Okay,
Snooze, lose.
Yeah, yeah, there you go, Dave.
let's see, we're trying to hire a replacement for Marty, who will be done in June. He retires, so we've just advertised for a new DPW supervisor. The Evely property that we purchased across from East End Park, the old cheese plant, the red building and the
Oh,
other
yeah.
thing next to it. This would be our last chance to apply for an LWRP grant, the village, to move forward on doing some things on that property. Do you know what the deadline is? That
It hasn't been open yet, but
Okay.
usually it's the last Friday in July.
July, okay.
Last
So
Friday.
we were gonna, in the next month or so, determine whether we are going to go forward or not, in which case we'll be filling out that form if we do.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
To you. So we are looking at that again. And I think that's about it.
Just a quick question on those two properties across Vincent. Is the intent to go ahead and take those down and then open up for the parking, or are they gonna still stand and then? parking
No,
will just come
the
down?
buildings will need to come down.
Yeah, okay, so open
And
it
we
up.
we have no concept plans or anything, but there is Mark Morger from Clayton is building boat storage on town land beyond, back towards inland from that. I believe he's purchased the property. Maybe he hasn't yet from the town. I'm not sure, but he's working to put these boat storages in. And he would need like, a way to get the boats from the launches across at East End. He can't go up, what street is that? The telephone lines would be an issue to get the boats of that size. So he had proposed taking down a building himself, except we have to work some agreement, transferring the property so he could take it down at his cost, which would save the village money, and then giving him some right of way there. But I don't know. It's all very out there, so.
The village doesn't own all that land.
Correct. Correct.
We do have a conceptual plan.
Yeah, cause I just thought it was just
Who has it?
like ask,
Oh,
It looks like a great place for a childcare center.
and
That's next on the agenda.
yeah,
when was this one done?
That was done for the grant, 22.
Okay,
23.
all right. And I
I
believe-
mean, it's just conceptual to show what they could do. There's
but it's just really additional parking.
additional parking,
Period.
but
Okay.
as she said, the intent was to have a.
We would do a
driveway all
new
the way
drawing
back
for
to
this
the
round
town.
of grants.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, all
I
right.
think we'll be looking at a different,
The town owns
Footprint
land
than that.
behind it, where people park their boats in the grass or whatever they could,
Oh, I
the
see.
intent
So you
was to
could
have
put
a driveway.
storage back there.
but they don't own all the way through. They'd have to get permission. There's like a sliver of land between the two, right?
can you email me that, Scott? I probably have it somewhere, but.
And Mandy has to approve the plan.
Yeah.
She didn't approve this plan.
She is
Well,
the vice
as a-
chair of the
As a
LDC.
village person, I'm gonna say I don't approve of that plan either, so,
Oh.
I mean, we need parking, but
Right.
But I shouldn't say-
That
That's
little
spot
grade,
of-
that little grayed out.
Yeah,
thing on the
that's,
side of
that's,
my house.
that's your house, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No, I think we can do better than that in
Yeah.
respecting that value. It's a nice piece of property and I don't think it needs to be a full out parking lot. That's me talking on, it's not my board, but anyway. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that there's this boat storage thing that probably
Yes.
got approved by planning. And that brings me back to what I skipped, which I drafted a planning and Board of Education letters. And only Jim, thank you, Jim, gave me feedback.
Oh.
So those are in review and I'm not sending anything till you people look at them.
Okay.
So there you go. There's enough of that.
We need to.
I missed that.
Okay.
And that brings us to childcare.
There's marketing too, but unless Jim.
Oh, well, that was the marketing. We
Okay.
kind of moved up into Club Street. Yeah.
Childcare is moving forward, I think, and I think it's going good. We've had a lot of meetings, looking at land, I think that's moving forward. She has a builder on board to handle that part of the grant that she'll be applying for. She's been talking to some financing people, so my question is, on the board approval, she would like Scott to review the grant before it's submitted, and if he has questions with the grant process stuff. Are we okay if using some of Scott's time for that?
So
I am,
in
yeah.
full disclosure, one of the people that the grant applicant is talking to about purchasing property from is me. So I will abstain from any motions on this because, I mean,
Sure.
I just think that's proper.
So I guess the question would be, are we prepared to have Scott services offered up to every business owner who comes into the village? If they want to apply for something, are we willing to let them use him for that as well?
Okay, since this isn't a vote.
That's just my thought to it.
Yeah, I think that, because it's childcare. And we have had, this on our agenda for a year and a half and did a survey. And so we know this is sort of an economic barrier. I think it's not quite the way, it's not like just any business. It's actually something we've been trying to move forward.
Since the.
But it's a
So
good,
we have
but it's a
to-
good question. It's not just any business. I think I
Priority
would say it's because
It's gonna be
of
part of our
this.
strategic plan.
So, but we'll set a precedent by
Well,
doing it, so
but I would
people
also say-
remember what
Yeah.
your
That's
guideline
my-
is.
Yeah.
I would also say they're not asking me to write it. She
Right.
just,
Right.
she's hiring a grant writer, somebody else is writing the grant for her.
Just wants to
She-
that
she's
instead of
just
I for
writing it.
review.
Okay.
Cause
They
it's
just want-
mostly just filling in the blank.
Cause I will tell you with the Restore New York, the town has talked to Ron Clapp about applying for Restore New York, and
Yeah.
they've made it clear he has to pay for the grant writer.
Yeah.
Whether he hires me or hires anybody else he
Right.
wants, the town's not going to use my time to write the grant for him. The town will be the sponsor of it because they have to be. But he's gonna have to pay for somebody to write the grant.
Right. I was gonna say, I think it's fine to recommend Scott's services to any business, but that Scott should have the right to charge a consultant fee to that business.
But
That
to
would be
review-
my
if it's
position.
taking an hour or two to review it, I think that's a good use of my time for things that go with our
Right.
strategic plan. That's my
Yeah.
thought, but.
So how do others feel? So he's writing the strategic plan. He knows childcare is gonna be in there. It has been a line item that we've discussed every meeting for a year and a half. But like I said, I can't vote on this one.
Yeah,
Mary, is it for profit or a 501
It's
operation?
for profit. It's for
For
profit.
No, I
Okay.
think Dave has a good point. I'm on both sides of this street.
Yeah,
I'm not against the childcare thing at all. I don't mean to
Of course.
sound like that, but there are other priorities that we'll have that.
and
If we have 4 or 5 businesses that are part of that, are we gonna get 4 or 5 hours a month or whatever?
So it's a valid question, and on the other hand, would she, maybe Scott would give her our low price and she would have to pay him to review it or something. I don't know.
She won't pay to have it reviewed.
Oh.
And personally, and I don't know that I should vote either, cause I
yeah,
am friends with her, but,
You're not benefiting.
I'm not benefiting from it. I've put probably 20 hours of my time into this.
Well, you
meeting with
put,
people.
no, let's talk about how many hours you put in before this.
Right, for
Right,
the
on
LDC.
childcare.
And
That's
since
true.
I feel like when I go to meetings with her, I'm giving all the history and giving our survey that we conducted, talking to people that might be able to help fund this. The biggest thing right now is she needs the land in her name prior to applying for the grant, and she needs to prove that she can pay the bills as they come in, and then the grant reimburses her. So she has to have $1.5 million accessible to her.
Who is the grant through? It's a federal or
New
a
York State.
New York State?
New York State grant.
I wonder,
We, and just talking about, like, redoing the grant with her, reviewing and talking to people about the history of Cape Vincent and how we haven't had daycare. Even just using myself as an example, like, I had to hire a nanny, which I could not afford, but I had, like, that was legit how I had to be able to have daycare, with both working parents. So, I don't know, I just think reviewing a grant that is, she's not asking him to write the grant, she's asking, say, is there anything I'm missing? Is there some wordage that would be better because you have written grants before?
That will help us get this goal accomplished, and it's part of our goal.
And I don't wanna be dramatic, but if she doesn't get this grant, it's not happening.
Right.
If she doesn't get this grant, it probably won't happen in another 10, 20 years until there's another potential grant that's available, and we have it lined up that somebody's actually interested, that somebody has done daycare in the past that's willing to take it on. Like, I just feel
What
like.
is hey Mandy, what's the probability of her getting funding of 1.5 million to be able to pull this project off?
So she's been talking, I think from the last meeting I went to, I think it's positive.
It's high probability.
High probability, and the grant itself, I think we have a high probability because we're a childcare desert and we are the dark, like, they do it in colors. We're the
Yeah,
dark,
no, I understand that.
like we're darker than Clayton, we're
No.
darker than
it's not the picture.
Watertown.
Okay.
I don't have a problem.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah.
That we, Scott spends up to 2 hours reviewing just to help to push this along, because it is so much of a strategic plan that we've been working on since the minute I joined this board.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm making that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I need a second. Bill seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed?
Yes.
Okay,
I have at the moment, yes, because of a question really related to precedent.
okay.
If Scott does even a minimal thing for a good thing for a for-profit, then what stops other applicants coming down the line to ask for the same exact thing?
If it's part of our strategic plan, my recommendation would be that we would be supportive of that, just like we're supportive of anything the village or town asks for. Because it
And then
would
on
be
the,
a strategic plan. If it's not, then I think that's the precedent, right?
well, and a follow-up to that would be, it's often one thing in government or quasi-government to give advice, give them what you can say. It's another thing to give them what they need to do themselves. And that was the demarcation when I was in the Senate, when everybody was always coming to you, looking for stuff, developers, people want grant, all this stuff. And, the basic rule was you can give them guidance by what you say. But the minute you have to pick up a pencil or tap a key, that wasn't really allowed. And this is good. I mean, the childcare thing is good and needed, no question about it. It's in a strategic plan. But I would just be a little bit worried about protecting against precedent here, because you can get sued after that. On the grounds of a petitioner saying they did it for somebody else. Is there a cap on what we do if we have to do it? Like it's just said, is it a 2-hour cap that you commit to it and be prepared to commit to it thereafter? That's the only concern I would have.
So would the precedent, just to play back that I understand, Jim, the precedent would be that if someone comes forward and they're willing to write their own grant as part of, and it is part of our strategic plan, we would authorize up to 2 hours for Scott's time to review
Yeah, I think that's fine.
and make comments.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
I think if it's part of our strategic plan, and I also don't know how different it is than when Scott was helping this businesses downtown get their grant stuff ready.
For New York
For New
Forward.
York Forward. Really,
Not-
I think we already set the precedent,
And when we went through the ready,
and it was probably more than
when we
2
went through
hours.
the ready and I was employed by the village in town, but there was still a committee. Like Jerry offered my service to everybody along the riverfront. If anybody wanted help with their.
So this
individual-
has already been set, and we just taken you over now, so it's still a.
So I
And
think,
not just to help, he offered he offered
Right.
me to
Right.
try to write his whole ready. Ron
Yeah.
didn't take us up
And-
on it.
and I-
Zero
for
dollars.
us, we need to have this discussion. I just think the precedent's been set because of that. And
Mm.
I think the precedent is if it's in our strategic plan. If it's not in our strategic plan, maybe we need to look at it when we next draft our next strategic
Right.
plan, you know, whatever that timeline is, but.
I hope we have as many people asking. for
Right.
2
I know.
hours.
Well, and we had talked too, Jeannie, I think when you were giving us the feedback of the roundtable you did with the businesses, right? We had discussed, what if people came forward to us and actually it was childcare, as I recall, that we were discussing, and we were saying that we would be willing to give advice and counsel to that person verbally, right? If they came forward to us and at a meeting and said, this is what they're thinking about, and basically Scott would be giving advice and counsel, because the rest of us don't really know anything. But we had said we were gonna do that, so,
But I'd also say from our meeting with JCIDA, if a private business went into Jefferson County's industrial corporation, they would help them too.
yes, they would.
I mean, they made it very clear. They were gonna come up and meet with all our businesses to loan them the money for the New York Forward.
Right, and
so I would just. I think we all agree the precedent's already been set. I personally don't have a problem helping out and reviewing the childcare because it's been for so long. So if the precedent, I would say not just the strategic plan, okay? The strategic plan can have lots of things. It's the strategic plan and what the board votes to approve and press as an item. Because we could have lots of things in the strategic plan and it might not be action until 5 years from now.
Yeah.
But if an opportunity strikes, like let's say a lady comes forward and said, here it is, and all of a sudden, boom, we're gonna move out on it. Then I think that's really the thing. So it's in the plan and we said, yep, let's go ahead and pursue this.
I would agree with that.
Caveat.
okay.
Now,
So,
can you clarify for me, for the minutes, what is the precedent that already has been set? What did you get? I can't hear anybody hardly. So what was the
so let me,
ask?
because I think you can hear me, pretty well, right?
Yes,
Okay, so I believe this is, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Since the grant writing services were paid for, when they were paid for by the town and the village, and when they were initially taken over by us, the town and the village would offer freely the services of the grant writer to work on assisting various constituents in the town and the village with getting grants, writing grants.
Okay.
That service was offered, so that's the precedent. I think
Got
what we're saying is that was a precedent. What I think is on the floor right now is if it is part of our strategic plan and the board agrees to prioritize it based on everything else that's going on, then we would, just like if we get the new communication thing, right? We would prioritize Scott's time. And if it was something that was, even though if it was in the strategic plan, but not as high a priority from the board's recommendation, we might say, yeah, we'll help you, but it's pushed out. Did I do that well, Bill?
I think so.
So that's
everyone,
that's not going in the motion I made, however.
No, that is not going in the motion that was made, because this would be the prioritization, right? So the motion that's on the floor is Carol motion for the board to authorize up to 2 hours of Scott's time to review childcare grant. And that was seconded by Bill.
Bill, okay,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Jeannie, you were opposed?
yes.
Jeannie's opposed and I'm abstained. So the motion passes.
Are you down with that, Scott? No, I didn't ask you.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely would be willing.
Okay.
Is there anything else for the good of the group?
Just one question, Mary, and the
Yes.
Thousand Island Sun, and maybe it's just a question I have for an answer. The Thousand Islands International Tourism Council, there was a piece about how the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority, whatever it is, and it mentioned many communities are involved in that, especially dealing with Canadian tourism. Are we a part of that, or can we be a part of that as our outreach as well? Something to look at, either by calling TIBI or them themselves?
I feel free to call and find out if it costs us money.
Okay,
And we did do what is that group that Scott recommended? It's $800. What is that group that we paid for?
The State Economic Development Council.
Yeah, I'm trying to I'm trying to see if I can get them to our April meeting, our regular April meeting, because they want to talk to us about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just trying to get it on the regular agenda. So, anything else? May I have a motion to close?
I did have,
Oh, yes.
email came out to elected officials today, just so you guys are aware. State Parks is reissuing the RFP for the boats that Metalcraft got screwed out of. And so they're going by federal guidelines and Metalcraft automatically pre-qualified.
Yes. Oh, that's great
That was
news.
really good.
That is
All right.
great news.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
news.
That's really,
Got ready to send out an email a second. So,
that was
Excellent.
nice to see.
Yes. All right, guys, I need a motion to close. Oh, my goodness, everybody. Dave motioned and Mandy seconded. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See ya. Bye, everybody.
yeah.
We gotta get on the ladder.
It's done.
When we came in, I went and turned the heat off.